Yeah.
Hello, Miss Carlson.
Miss Alexander.
Hey, I thought we'd just get together today and we'd talk a little bit about your experience as a teacher and especially in the area of English language arts.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we start out with telling your name, where you teach, kind of how long you've taught, your degree, where you got your degree from, and things like that.
My name's Shana Carlson, and I'm a 5th grade teacher here at Russell Elementary in Santa Rosa County. This is my 10th year teaching, and I've taught 9 years in 5th grade. I was a middle school teacher that first year. I'm late to coming to teaching, but I've got a good, long life lesson here. I'm coming in teaching late, but I jumped right in. I graduated with a bachelor's degree, middle school education from the University of West Florida. Go Argos! And I've been teaching ever since. And I have a social studies and English certification. I have a middle school integrated curriculum certification. And I'm also certified K through 6 in elementary ed and ESOL endorsed.
ESOL endorsed. Mm-hmm. And you're working on your reading endorsement?
Almost finished. 5th module coming my way.
All right. Mm-hmm. And I know, since I'm your literacy coach, I know that you were an ESE inclusion kind of push-in class at one time.
Absolutely.
How long did you do that?
For 5 years, I was a gen ed teacher of a co-taught ESE and push-in class. So I got to have students from gen ed as well as ESE. And loved every minute of it. Learned a lot of strategies for ESE students that I could actually incorporate in with a gen ed classroom.
And you're a PLC or professional learning community facilitator here at our school, and that helps the whole faculty grow and learn as well. All right. So why don't we start out with talk about, since you've been teaching ELA, English Language Arts, think about a particular student that completely emptied your instructional toolbox. You were out of ideas, and they caused you to seek out and try different teaching strategies, but also stretched you and caused you to grow as an educator.
A young man named Alex, 5th grade, when I came, it's my 2nd year teaching. Alex came to me, and this was before I began an ESE inclusion class. Could see a few traits of some ESE trouble there with ELA, reading comprehension. And so he would not want to be, did not want to read, did not want to be fluent in reading, did not enjoy reading, did not like to have to come to a small group and read. He would not even pull a chair up, he would throw his head down. And I came into this thinking that all 5th graders enjoyed reading and was fluent readers. So this was a little bit of a stretch for me. And so
you have 2 daughters of your own, and
absolutely.
Do they love to read?
Oh, love to read. I love to read, so it's a huge.
So that was a big. Some people don't.
Right. And my expectation of 5th graders coming in would be they enjoy some reading. They would enjoy it. But he did not. He did not enjoy it at all. So we went through several weeks there of me trying to do different. I isolated him. Not thing to do, because then he wanted to know, why am I isolated by myself? Then I would bring over several of his friends that he enjoyed playing with. We would read together. He got a little more comfortable with that. So then he would read a little bit more. He would circle. We coded some text. I would make the passages smaller, so the printed page did not look so overwhelming to him. Okay. So I made it very smaller. He would read it for me. Then we would circle words that he'd understand. And then we would go back and talk about that. We would make a list of synonyms of the words he'd understand. I would kind of model that for a little bit, and then he got to where he was really good at that. And he, like I say, he would be overcome with some of the printed word, and he would. So we tried several. The QAR, which I still use, and love to use that strategy, would overwhelm him. What do you mean I have to find that right there? What do you mean an author and me? And so then I would talk about, well, what do you think why the author is saying what, I've written that. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. So even though you still use the strategies, you broke them down.
Absolutely. And
you scaffolded his learning, which then, how did that grow you as an educator?
Well, it began realizing that you can take a strategy and use it towards what your students in your ELA block need. Sometimes some strategies will work with some are not going to work with others. You may use different strategies with different students and within that reading block. So that was it was an eye-opener for me, and also about expectations. You're going to come in, those students are going to come into your classroom with a whole different expectation, and you need to adapt and differentiate that ELA instruction for each student.
Something I heard you say that was unique was that he didn't even want to read by himself or whatever. But a lot of 5th grade teachers don't have small group reading. But I heard you say he didn't even want to be in small group. So you already had small group established, but that still was something that still pushed you, because you had to find a small group situation that would work for him. Because isolated didn't work, big group didn't work, even normal small group. So you attached a relationship building to it by having his friends that he enjoyed being around be in that group, maybe not necessarily the ones that were on his reading level.
Exactly.
So that was a unique strategy, because most of the time we would just think to get people his level so he would feel like he was comfortable reading the same they did, but you attached relationship to it. If you could have a wish list, make a wish list of professional skills that a novice ELA teacher would need on day one, what would they be? And share why you selected that.
I think some novice ELA teachers come in with a whole new an expectation that might be a little eye-opener when they first get into the classroom. I think a typical 90-minute reading block needs to just be addressed and lay that out as to where your expectation is in that 90-minute block. I also think behavior management. If you don't have a good behavior management and you haven't modeled that behavior management when you first begin the school year with that new group of ELA students coming in, you've got to model that behavior as to what you expect in a small group setting, what you're doing in seat work. If you're doing stations and you rotate stations, I think behavior management to lay that out and have a good, and it may take a while. Sometimes we want to jump right in to that school year, and I think that modeling of what is expected and how we do that. Now, talking a small group of behavior management, I was not too comfortable, and I had you, if you remember, you came in and watched me. And you wrote comments down to tell me what I could do better, what I was doing pretty well, and then things that we could change up. And I took those and I made those work for me in that small group setting. Who's going to share, thumbs up if you have the answer, just little things like that become that. I think sometimes the curriculum for ELA can be very overwhelming if you're not careful. You have to look at it and you have to decide. I want to have I got to get the comprehension. I've got to get the vocabulary. I've got to get that writing in. If you got good readers, you're going to have good writers. If you got writers, you're going to have good readers. It goes hand in hand. So I think sometimes some new teachers may not realize that is it all works together. It all really works together.
That there's a reciprocal part to reading and writing.
Absolutely.
What I heard you say, some things that you think that they might really need would be a literacy coach, if they have one. Most places you are either going to have someone from the district, or there would be a reading coach in the classroom. And just because I hear you saying that, like, I've only been your reading coach for a couple of years, and you had me come in. So that had been quite a while. You'd been teaching 7 or 8 years, and you had me come in. So you shouldn't be shy to ask someone to come in and help. So I think that you think from day one they should have support.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a mentor teacher next door, so not, or an instructional coach or a reading coach, or to find a cohort for support, and to realize that we're all always learning and growing. I learn and grow. I've been teaching 30 years, and I still learn and grow. And if I went back in the classroom, I would do things differently than I did then, because I've learned better. We do the best we can at the time with what we know.
That's right.
And so to continue to grow.
And I talk to the practicum students that I have come in, because I've had the pleasure of having some practicum students come into my classroom, and I have talked to them about that. And like, don't be scared. We may be old seasoned teachers, or we may be brand new, but you still can learn no matter where you're at and what you're doing. So, in your view, what don't non-educators know about our profession that they need to know? Oh, non-educators.
Stakeholders and people that aren't really involved in what we do, what do you think they need to know?
I think they need to realize the classroom environment has changed over time. Yes. Coming from an ESC Gen Ed inclusion team for 5 years, that environment is definitely changed in just the 10 years that I've been teaching. you are going to have some ESC students in a gen ed classroom. You're going to have some maybe possible spectrum students on the spectrum and have special needs that way. You're going to have to realize that environment is different. Every child is going to come to a different expectation, different level of understanding when they come into the classroom environment. And we don't teach just academics anymore. We're teaching basic manners, basic respect. We're now looking at how we're having to teach students how to argue in a great way, how to debate in a great way. My way is the only way, and I'm going to argue with that. We have to teach a lot of that. I also think our expectations are for the, quote, normal kids. What is that? Every child. Every child, every day, every child.
Right, every child, every day. They're all different. And the classroom doesn't look like it looked when we went to school.
No, it doesn't.
There aren't rows of desks, and we're preparing children for careers that don't exist yet.
Absolutely.
And so we have to make sure that we keep thinking outside the box, keep thinking what might come down the road. So we have to have a wide lens of what the curriculum should and could look like.
Flexible seating. I've had to, some want to work standing up. We have flexible seating where they're on the different type of chairs, whatever works for them to be able to understand that. I also think that 4-letter word, time.
Oh, time. Yes, time.
I don't think brand new, I don't think even non-professionals realize how much time it takes for us to do the academics and the instruction and the curriculum that we have to get through.
And oftentimes time is what they take away.
That's right.
And impose things like mandates that take time that we could accomplish if we could move the schedule around ourselves with the flow of the day without having the mandate.
Absolutely.
How has your professional knowledge and experience as an ELE instructor shaped the ways you advocate for students or other teacher professionals' learning needs?
I differentiate instruction. I'm an advocate for that. I teach for each student, for their learning, for their goals, expectations. I also am going to push them beyond that typical ELA normal. I have gained strategies that I never thought I would use in a classroom. When I first heard reciprocal teaching, what? I have used that and it's worked. I have used the peel to understand how to do a paragraph. We have done a lot of great comprehension skills as to how to code as you're reading. Got a brand new coming out for writing, the DBQ. I mean, all kinds of great strategies that I would never have thought to.
And just last year, you began to experiment with interactive read-alouds.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love my Friday read-alouds. And you don't tell me fifth graders aren't ready to get on the floor in a circle and read a book. Don't ever think that they're telling you they're not going to do that, because they love it. Love interactive read-alouds.
Well, some great ideas, Shana. In thinking about all these things we talked about, why are you a teacher?
Oh, I tell you what, Stephanie, I'm a teacher. I feel it is a calling. I feel that I knew that I was going to be a teacher. It took me longer to get to that point. Life got in the way, but I enjoyed life as I was there. But I have a calling to be a teacher. I feel that I bring a lot to a classroom with knowledge, love of those students, expectations, discipline. And I think that as I continue to grow and to learn and to model that I can be quite an advocate for the students in my classroom. And as I said when I started this year, I said I want to be for them what they need, and I want them to be what I need. So it is a calling. It is a true love of education. It's a true love of students. And I feel it a privilege and a blessing to be able to be a teacher.
I think one thing you didn't say that you bring to the classroom that I enjoy about your teaching is your humor.
Oh.
You bring a humor to the classroom that I think builds that relationship with the children, and I think that's what you want to do. You want to build a relationship that encourages them to be lifelong learners.
Absolutely.
And that learning can be fun and that caring. So I feel that you use humor and your relationship building to change the world by being a teacher.
That's nice to hear.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me and talking about these important subjects.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the privilege.